There are two kinds of intelligence in this world. One is the kind they test in classrooms, the kind that fits neatly into exams, grades, and certificates. That kind of intelligence shines brightly. It loves applause, and it feeds on recognition. But there is another kind, a kind no one teaches, a kind that rarely gets written in books and almost never spoken in polite circles. You won't see it displayed under stage lights. You won't find it waved proudly on resumes. This intelligence doesn't chase attention because it doesn't need to. It thrives in shadows. It moves quietly, strategically and visibly. It is sharper than charm, colder than talent, and far more effective than hard work. It's an intelligence so dangerous that once you begin to master it, the people around you will never experience you the same way again. This is the intelligence of Machiavelli, the art of wiring your mind so that you don't just survive the games people play, you bend those games until they fit your design. Imagine walking into a room. Nobody knows your name. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody suspects what you're capable of. You don't shout. You don't rush to prove yourself. You sit in absolute calm and slowly, without raising your voice, without even standing from your chair, the atmosphere begins to bend toward you. People speak differently when they look at you. They don't even understand why, but suddenly they measure their words more carefully, and their laughter feels tested. This is not luck. It is not ordinary confidence. It is the effect of a different kind of mind at work, a dangerously smart mind. Most of what you've been told about intelligence is incomplete at best and manipulative at worst. They told you intellect is about knowing facts, memorizing details, scoring well on IQ tests, dazzling others with quick wit. But here is a truth most never realize. Facts are cheap. Wit is loud and fragile. What truly dominates isn't knowledge for its own sake. It is the calibrated use of perception, timing, leverage, and silence. The dangerously smart know this. Intelligence is not about learning more. It is about seeing differently. Niccolo Machiavelli once wrote, "Men are driven by fear or by love, but the leader who understands how to tilt both can command without either." He was not celebrating cruelty. He was observing reality. He saw how the game is really played, not on stage, but behind curtains, inside whispers, within perception. When you understand this darker form of intelligence, you stop wasting energy. You stop defending yourself against life's small battles. You no longer run frantically to prove your worth, or to explain yourself, or to beg for validation. Instead, you sharpen your stillness until it radiates as presence, because presence, true presence, does not require performance. It is simply felt. The way night falls, the way storms gather. No one announces it, but everyone notices. And the first hook of this transformation is this. If you've ever felt underestimated, if you've ever been told you were too quiet, too strange, or too distant, then what you thought was weakness may in fact be the seed of Machiavellian intelligence. Society will never tell you this plainly, because a person who learns to weaponize silence is impossible to control. A person who masters detachment becomes immune to cheap manipulation, and institutions, relationships, even whole systems thrive only when you remain predictable, eager to please. But you're here because you're ready to break predictability. That's why the next hour, if you stay with me, will feel like stepping through a hidden doorway. On one side of the door, ordinary, thinking, emotional, reactive, desperate for recognition. On the other side, the mind of a fox, silent, calculated, always 5 moves ahead. While the others still argue over the previous one, you are not here to learn trivia. You are here to rewire your perspective and become dangerously smart. Now beware of the contrast I'm about to draw. Ordinary intelligence plays for applause. Dangerous intelligence plays for outcomes. Ordinary intelligence makes arguments. Dangerous intelligence makes silence unbearable. Ordinary intelligence spends years collecting degrees. Dangerous intelligence studies leverage. Timing, psychology. The crowd runs toward comfort, desperate to appear intelligent. The rare few mask their edge, allowing others to underestimate them, until the moment comes to quietly tip the scale. That difference may not sound like much, but in practice, it is the difference between leading and being led, between setting holding the board and being a pawn upon it. So here's how this transformation begins. Not with flashy genius, not with frantic overwork, but with noticing. You notice the way people contradict themselves. You notice who laughs too loudly to hide insecurity. You notice the gestures that reveal lies before words leave the mouth. And the moment you notice, you realize something profound. Weakness is everywhere. Almost everyone you meet is broadcasting signals. Signals of fear, signals of ego, signals of desire. And because almost nobody sees them, those signals remain raw power, waiting to be used. Then, you begin reframing silence, where once you stayed quiet because you didn't know what to say. Now you stay quiet because you've learned silence is a weapon. People cannot bear their own discomfort. They confess, they justify, they stumble over explanations, all while you simply sit still, calm, unreadable. What used to feel like social awkwardness now becomes strategic patience. You're not overlooked, you're observing, you're not shy, you're calculating. Step by step, this recalibration shifts the way the world experiences you. There's a paradox here. The quieter you become, the louder your presence. Why? Because human beings crave clarity. They crave predictability. But when your words, your actions are no longer easy to predict, they become obsessed. Mystery is magnetic, and the Machiavellian knows this truth. A single unanswered glance can dominate a room more effectively than a screaming monologue. That's why many of the most dangerously intelligent appear invisible at first. They're not busy flashing cleverness. They're not winning debates for applause. They understand true power requires patience. True leverage requires being underestimated, because when you are underestimated, nobody sees the trap until it snaps. That is the shape of dangerous intelligence. By the time this script guides you to its end, you won't just be holding ideas, you'll be carrying a completely different frame, sharper than you were an hour ago, because the Machiavellian mind isn't about storing facts. It's about training perception, how you walk into the world, how you command presence, how you shape outcomes without leaving fingerprints. And here is the promise. If you follow this path through every step ahead, not only will you understand Machiavelli in principle, you'll apply these lessons the very next time you speak. Next time you negotiate, the next time someone tries to test you. From today, misunderstandings will no longer frustrate you. They will feed you data. Insults will no longer wound you. They will expose weakness. Rejection will no longer discourage you. It will reveal terrain. Every signal people accidentally give will become a thread you can pull, tie in a knot, or cut cleanly. Ordinary life becomes a chessboard, and you, silent, unreadable, dangerously smart, sit at its center. If the opening of this journey was about waking up to the existence of a hidden intelligence, then this stage is about understanding its shape. Because intelligence, unlike what we're told, is not simply knowledge measured on a scale. True, dangerous intelligence reveals itself in traits, habits of mind, habits that slowly separate you from the crowd, and the moment you begin to inhabit these traits, the rules of the world start bending toward you. Think of most people. They are emotional before they are strategic. They react before they pause. They talk before they listen. They are loud in their efforts to appear strong, yet soft when faced with quiet pressure. Most of society confuses reaction for action, and because of that confusion, they are easily manipulated, easily guided, easily broken. But those who learn to reverse this rhythm begin to feel like anomalies, almost spectral presences in a noisy world. The first trait is emotional detachment. To the ordinary person, emotions dictate behavior. Anger rises and they snap. Sadness spills and they beg. Fear climbs and they collapse. Their actions are chains tied directly to emotions, and every manipulator knows it. But when you start to uncouple emotion from expression, when you create a gap between feeling and reaction, something changes. You still feel anger, but it becomes data. You still experience sadness, but it clarifies the weakness underneath. You still taste fear, but instead of controlling you, it highlights the edges of risk. You are no longer imprisoned by feelings, you are informed by them. Picture a battlefield. Your opponents scream and rush into chaos, but you stand still, scanning, calculating, unemotional. Who then is more dangerous? Not the loud chaos, but the quiet calculation. That is you. The second trait is surgical observation. It emerges naturally once emotions are no longer running your show. When others are controlled by storms inside them, they don't notice the storm outside, but you, steady, begin to see. You notice where eyes flicker when lies are spoken. You notice a laugh that is just a second too late, masking insecurity. You notice the breathing shift of someone planning to hide something. Most people never imagine their bodies betray everything, but once you sharpen observation, you begin reading people like open books, and the terrifying part for them is not that you see, but that you see silently. The fox doesn't roar, the fox doesn't announce, the fox simply notices tracks no one else does. Trait 3 is controlled presence. In most rooms, people compete to be noticed. They perform, they over-explain, they dominate air with energy, but when you walk in with dangerous intelligence, you realize presence is not about outward energy, it is about inward gravity. You don't need to announce who you are. Your silence is heavier than noise. You reveal only fragments of yourself, not to play games, but to remain unreadable, predictable. People are easy to manage. Unreadable people are unnerving, and the mysteriously unreadable gain leverage without even asking for it. Real presence isn't about running the moment. It's about letting the room quietly bend toward you without effort. Trait 4 is strategic speech. Average intelligence wastes words. Dangerous intelligence weaponizes them. You no longer speak to fill silence. You speak to plant, to position, to redirect. Every pause becomes a lever, every tone an anchor, every word a blade. If someone confronts you angrily, you don't defend. You ask calmly, what makes you so certain? That pause alone shifts the balance. Most people talk to impress. You talk to influence, and influence lasts longer than sound. Finally, trait 5, self-reliance without performance. Dangerous intelligence collapses if it depends on validation. The moment you need applause, others can pull your strings. But when your validation comes from your own clarity, no one can touch you. You become untouchable. Not because you are invincible, but because you need nothing. This immunity terrifies people, because when someone cannot be seduced by recognition, cannot be controlled by guilt, cannot be softened by shame or flattery, they stand free of manipulation. In a world built on manipulation, that freedom is terrifying, which is why most who see you transformed won't applaud you. They will resist you. They will whisper against you because they fear you. Now let's step back. See the contrast. On one side, the ordinary path. Society trains you to be agreeable, emotional, expressive, available, predictable, controllable. On the other side, this path, detachment, observation, controlled presence, strategic speech, ruthless independence. Which do you think Machiavelli admired, the predictable or the unreadable? The answer is obvious. Lions roar, foxes win, and here is how these traits come alive. Imagine this scene. Someone insults you in public. The ordinary person reacts instantly. Emotions surge, words fire back, tension escalates, but the dangerously smart pause. Maybe they smile faintly, or maybe they say nothing at all. That silence makes the entire room uncomfortable. Why didn't you react? Do you know something they don't? In seconds, the balance flips. You are no longer tested. They are being tested by their own nerves. Another scene, a negotiation. Ordinary minds rush to fill silence. They argue, convince, promise, beg, but you ask one question and then remain still. Silence stretches. The other person scrambles to fill it. They reveal more than they intended. Leverage flows into your hand. By the time the deal settles, the advantage is yours, not because you roared louder, but because you let silence expose them. That is the weaponization of stillness, one of the sharpest weapons in dangerous intelligence. All 5 traits fuse together. Detachment keeps you unmoved. Observation supplies signals. Presence pulls people in. Speech bends outcomes. Independence blocks manipulation. Together, they shift you from being a piece in the chaos to being the axis around which which chaos spins. People sense something lethal in your calm, but they cannot name it. That's perfect, because mystery itself is leverage. If they don't know your depth, they cannot guard against it. Now you can see dangerously smart individuals don't announce themselves. They don't seek loud victories. They prefer invisible triumphs. They don't chase status. They collect influence quietly. While everyone else exhausts themselves in competition, the Machiavellian mind nudges events, bends perception, and exits without fingerprints. And here's the truth you must remember. Society will discourage these traits. They'll call you too cold, too detached, too calculating. But that resistance proves transformation is working. They want you predictable. They want you controllable. But when they can't read you, they fear you. Ironically, the accusations show you're on the right path. Your silence is teaching. Your stillness is unsettling. And slowly, people reveal more to you than you ever revealed to them. That is the shift. That is dangerous intelligence. So far, you've stepped into a new dimension of intelligence by redefining your traits: detachment, observation, presence, speech, independence. But traits alone are like blades. If they remain sheathed, they inspire only quiet potential. To become dangerously smart, you must begin to use them, not recklessly, not emotionally, but strategically, surgically, with precision, because it is not enough to simply be different. Power emerges when your difference bends outcomes around you. Let's begin with conflict. Conflict is where most people collapse because their first response is emotional. An insult pierces them and they lash out. Disrespect touches them and they scramble to defend. Rumors spread and their ego combusts. But when you carry a darker intelligence, you reframe conflict as information. Someone humiliates you. That isn't loss. That is a confession of their insecurity. Someone raises their voice. That isn't dominance. That is fear disguised as volume. Someone spreads rumors. That isn't power. That is evidence that you frighten them. Conflict does not sting you. Conflict maps terrain. You do not rush into battle. You observe. You plan. You move once. Clean, decisive, silent. To most people, revenge is indulgence. To the dangerously smart, correction is inevitability. It doesn't scream. It doesn't parade. It whispers, and that whisper echoes longer than any roar ever could. Now consider influence. The average person believes influence means persuasion, talking louder, talking faster, talking endlessly. They force belief. They push opinions. They beg for agreement. But direct impact always creates resistance. Push someone, and they push back. Persuasion fails because it feels like force. The dangerously smart don't force. They guide, not with answers, but with questions. You plant seeds and let someone believe they grew them. 3 calm questions, each one peeling away another layer, each one making the other side reveal themselves. And when they finally reach a conclusion, they call it theirs, not realizing it was yours all along. Machiavelli saw this clearly. Men resist when they feel driven. They yield when they feel it was their choice. So dangerous intelligence doesn't drive. It frames, it suggests, it redirects until people walk willingly down the path you designed. That is influence, unknown, unseen, but unstoppable. And influence does not live only in words. Your silence itself is influence. Picture a heated debate. The other person raises their voice. All eyes turn to you. Everyone waits for your reply, but you pause, you breathe, you stretch silence 5 seconds, longer than is comfortable. Those 5 seconds are unbearable for them. They rush to fill it. They soften their own claim. They reveal their own fear. They tilt the entire conversation, trying to break the stillness you created. You did nothing, yet everything bent. That she is influence without force. The fox doesn't roar like the lion. The fox moves pawns without even showing its teeth. Now, relationships. Most people think relationships are beyond strategy, that they are safe places, places where being completely open makes you loved. But complete openness, oversharing, Bare vulnerability is the most dangerous trap of all, because manipulators prey for information. The more you reveal, the more you hand them the blueprint, your fears, your weaknesses, your history, all handed over. In the hope of being accepted, dangerous intelligence does the opposite. You don't rush to reveal yourself, you listen, you observe, you let others expose themselves, you collect the details quietly, but you reveal little, only what you choose, and the choice builds mystery. Mystery creates tension. Tension creates value. Value becomes control. Understand something vital. Mystery is the foundation of power. Predictable people are easy to use, but they are rarely respected. When you remain unpredictable, people adapt to you. They second-guess you. They try to decode you. They seek your approval nervously because they do not know where they stand. The less you show, the more they imagine. The blanks they cannot fill become magnetic, and before they realize it, they have entangled themselves in your silence. Picture presence in a group. Most people walk into rooms with hunger. Hunger to belong, hunger to perform, hunger to be recognized. That hunger makes them loud, overexposed, over-talking, but you enter differently. Silent, collected, measuring. You occupy space without noise, and in that stillness, something magnetic begins. The more silent you are, the more questions others ask about you. Who is this? Why don't they talk more? What do they know? And the more they ask, the more your presence enlarges. They build your aura for you without you lifting a finger. Presence is not about being interesting, it's about being unreadable. Here's the sharpest contrast. Ordinary intelligence craves clarity. Dangerous intelligence thrives in ambiguity. Ordinary minds chase consensus. Dangerous minds bend tension. Ordinary voices demand the last word. Dangerous voices drop the first word and let it echo long after the room falls silent, and Machiavelli knew this truth well. Strategy always outlives strength. Anyone can roar, few can wait. Anyone can strike impulsively, few can strike silently and vanish. The lion burns fast, the fox outlasts. So too must you picture a workplace conflict. Two colleagues clash in anger, voices raised, sides divided. You stay silent, you watch, you wait. Later, you ask one precise question at just the right time. The information flows to you, each side reveals themselves, and when the moment finally arrives to step in, both sides beg you to mediate. Why? Because you were the only one calm in chaos. They crown you anchor without realizing that credibility wasn't demanded, it was earned. Patience, multiplied by presence, becomes power. Or picture a relationship test. Someone pulls away, they want to see you break. Angry words or desperate begging, but you do neither. You remain calm, withdraw in silence. You let absence do the speaking. Suddenly, they panic. Why didn't you react? Why aren't you fighting for validation? They expected an argument. They got unpredictability, and unpredictability terrifies. So they adjust themselves to you without one command spoken aloud. That is not manipulation through deceit. It is strategy. Through restraint, absence as response, patience as weapon. Your silence bends behavior sharper than demands ever could. This is the mark of being dangerously smart. Not constant victory, not perfection, but immunity. People insult you, you don't crumble. They provoke you. They expose themselves. They tempt with promises. You remain unmoved. Why? Because you don't need them. You are self-reliant, and because you need nothing, nothing controls you. When you finally move, when silence ends, it will already be too late for them. By then, you've been shaping it all along. That is the beauty, that is the terror of Machiavellian intelligence, unseen, unannounced, but undeniable. The question is no longer, can you be smart? The question is, can you become dangerous? The answer lies not in brilliance, but in discipline. Discipline to remain unreadable, to turn silence into a blade, to observe instead of perform, day after day, moment after moment. The quieter you remain, the sharper you become, and one day you look back and you realize the old version of you, the reactive, the desperate, the controlled, is gone, and what's left is someone no longer shaped by the world, but someone shaping it. That is how intelligence becomes dangerous. That is how you win without shouting. That is how you you dominate without being seen.